Welcome, Canada, to another edition of POP TV, powered by POP TikR. Today, I am super excited. We have a special guest, former Olympian, Canadian medalist, figure skater Elizabeth Manley joins us today, and she'll be coming up in just a few seconds here. Bang! Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for coming on to our show.
My pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure.
So, I mean, this is really surreal. Canada, I mean, if you were there, 1988, Calgary Olympics, there was so much going on. We had Eddie the Eagle Edwards, that big story. We had the Jamaican bobsled team that made its first debut. And of course, Elizabeth Manley winning the silver medal for Canada in Calgary.
Thank you. Thank you. It was just such a great Olympics. And I do want to share a story really quickly with you. Everything happens so fast as an athlete when you're at the games and you're so focused. And I remember I got stuck in drug testing of all things after the free program. And I was in there till 5:30 in the morning because you're so dehydrated after you compete and all the excitement and everything. And I remember my brother was living in Calgary at the time, and he waited around to drive me back to the village because all the buses were gone, everything. And when it was 5 o'clock in the morning, I'll never forget this, he drove through the streets of Calgary to bring me back to the village. And I can't even tell you what it was like. There were thousands of people on the streets with Canada flags yelling, Manley, Manley. And it was
Wow.
and you know what? That was the moment for me at the Olympics, because that was the moment that I realized not only did I do it for myself, but I did it for the whole country. And it was so special to me to see Canada raise to its feet and just celebrate and be so happy. And for me, that was like the gold medal. That moment was like, I came home with the silver, but the biggest part of the games for me was seeing how the country just raised to their feet. It was a dream come true.
Wow, that just gives me goosebumps. I mean, we're in the most difficult times, that our country has faced in a very long time. And that's, the feeling of, community, this sense of pride, Canadians coming together. And, Olympics is one of those events that, you feel so much pride about being Canadian. And I wanted to share with you. So my husband's from Calgary. He's a big fan. I'm trying to get this into. So he still has the Calgary souvenir book for the Calgary Olympics in 1988. And he asked, he said, you make sure you show Elizabeth Manley this beautiful picture of her in the program. So I thought I'd just bring it up.
I'm virtually autographing it for him.
He'll love that. So yeah, I mean, just again, so much pride. And I'm going to roll a tape, and this is your winning performance. So let's bring it up right over here.
What a great night for her. What a wonderful thing, your home country. She did it. She did it.
Nice, nice, nice.
A look of wonder. There's her mother. At one point, she had moved away from her mother. There's little Gordieva. She hasn't missed a minute of empty skating competition since she won the pairs. Wouldn't it be great if every human being could have one moment like this once in their lives? A Calgary hat. Liz went and got him all right.
So that was a great performance, Elizabeth Manley. So just tell us, I mean, there must have been so much pressure. Like, what were you feeling? There's so much emotion.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but I was really sick in Calgary. I was running like 103, 104 fever. And 24 hours before that final event, they considered pulling me out because of my illness. And one of the American skaters, Karen Kadavy, had actually pulled out with almost the same bug that I had. And it just, we had a day off between that short and long. And I remember you know, begging them to let me have my day off because maybe I'd feel better by the free program. And I went to the practice session the day of the program, and they wanted a decision after I practiced if they felt that I was healthy enough to get through a 4-minute program. And the craziest thing happened, but the entire Olympic hockey team walked into the practice. And I was like, what are they doing here? Like, this is so weird. Hockey players never go to a figure skating practice, but they were sitting in the box, all in a line in the player's box with the coach sitting behind them like this. And I remember saying to my coach, why are they here? And he said, I don't know, but we have a very serious decision to make. So can you concentrate? You know, with 40 hockey players there. So after the practice, when my coach said, okay, you and I are going to have a meeting, and then we're going to let them know if you feel good enough, but I want the honest truth from you. And as I came around the corridor, the only person walking towards me as I was going to the locker room was the hockey coach, Dave King. And I didn't know Dave King from a hole in the wall. And I stopped him and I said, hi, I'm Elizabeth Manley. And he laughed. He goes, I know who you are. And I said, I put my hand out to shake his hand, and I said, I just, you know, really want to thank you for coming to support me on my practice. But I really got to ask you, why were you guys here? Like, it's just very odd. And he said, Liz, the team is waiting for me on the bus. So I've only got a second. He said, but we were practicing at the corral, which was next door. And they weren't really having a great practice. And we've got a really big game tonight. They were actually playing Russia that night. And he said, so I pulled the team off because I really wanted them to watch a champion.
Wow.
And I literally turned around because I didn't know if somebody else was standing behind me. And I was in such shock to hear such a compliment from a complete stranger in those days to me. And he kind of hit me on the shoulder. He said, good luck tomorrow. You got this. And he walked away. And I bent over because I was just like almost breathless, right? And my coach came around the corner. He goes, what's going on? Are you sick? And I was like, no. And he said, when I stood up, I had this look in my face that he had never seen before. And all I said to my coach was, call the meeting off. I'm competing tomorrow. And he said, what just happened? And I said, you know what? I'll tell you another time, but I know that I need to compete tomorrow. And, you know, the rest of the story is history. I go out the next night. I win the free program. I beat Katarina Witt, Debbie Thomas. I only lost the gold by 1/10 of a mark, but it was like that moment in my life, because I had suffered from depression. I had suffered from many things in my career. It was the realization of how powerful words are. And the timing of people saying words. And, you know, as I sit here today and I talk to you, I'm not sure where I would be right now today if I hadn't had that interaction with him, because he just gave me such a powerful encouragement that was really needed at that moment. I was like 10 minutes from possibly pulling out of the Olympics because of being so sick. And so that's always really stuck with me. And it was kind of like one of those behind the scenes that the world doesn't know about, but he changed my life in that moment. And the rest, you know, and that's really, you know, what I'm trying to do now is working in the mental health field. You know, I'm a keynote speaker for many organizations on mental health and motivation and things like that. And I use that story because it changed the entire journey of my life. Just that one brief interaction.
Wow, that is so powerful. Like, I mean, your stories are so touching and, you know, just again, giving me all these goosebumps. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, we've seen, you know, the Calgary Olympics for some of us, you know, who are fortunate to witness that, you know, again, like you said, epic, you know, historical, the first Olympics, you know, held in Canada, in our country. And it's just, again, it shows you, like you said, the power of words and also the strength that athletes, the stress that they endure. Tell us a little bit more about, you know, what Canadian athletes are going through today. I mean, again, with, you know, our goal here at POP TikR is to really spotlight how important local business is, how it impacts the community.
Well,
Elizabeth.
I am the poster child for what local can do for an athlete or for anybody. I, struggled through my career. It was just my mom and I alone. She didn't make a lot of money. I was in a very elite sport. And if you can imagine, in the 80s, there wasn't a tremendous amount of sponsorship for athletes back in those days. You look at it today and they're on every commercial, they're on everything. But in my day, there wasn't that. And the city of Ottawa really came through for me. Little things like, well, I shouldn't say little, they were huge to me, but if there was an hour of empty ice somewhere, they would call me up and say, you can come and use this ice time. And, they would give it to me pro bono, because they just knew we didn't have, the finances, the financial backing, for such a, an elite level of skating. And, there was a local, it doesn't exist anymore, but it was called the Ottawa Nepean Sports Club. And it was just a sports club for men to go and just, meet up and talk and things like that. They sponsored me by leasing me a car so I could get to training and to school and to my office. So it was that collaboration. And then where I was training was a little town attached to Ottawa called Gloucester. And Gloucester did everything for me. They helped me out when I needed it. They did a fundraiser to send my mom to my first Olympics. It was just all community support. And without that, I wouldn't have done as well as I would have, because I wouldn't have had that capability of getting the extra ice or the extra training or the extra help that was needed. And, I was diagnosed with depression when I was 16, and I actually quit skating, and we couldn't afford help. And it was a very tough time, because in the 80s, there wasn't a lot out there for mental health and depression. And so somebody reached, a local person here, Dr. Terry Orlick, reached out to my mom and knew our financial situation. And he worked with me pro bono. He just wanted to help me. And helping me meant 4 years, hundreds of sessions. And I really owe my career so much to him, because he gave himself to me in a way that was so important, because I had gone through such a difficult time in my life and just kind of gave up. And, I was that 16-year-old kid that felt, the world would be better without me. And I lost all my hair. I gained a tremendous amount of weight. It was just, and then I was diagnosed as having a nervous breakdown and depression and anxiety. And he was just there for me. So when it comes to local, especially for athletes, it's a team. It's not just me out on that ice. It's the whole entourage of everybody. And when I stepped out on that ice in Calgary, I had the city of Ottawa, I had Calgary, I had Dr. Terry Orlick, I had all these people right there on my shoulders helping me get through that night. And it's so important to have that local help.
Wow. I mean, that's thanks for inspiring, Elizabeth, so many. And here's a picture with you and these beautiful, young kids who look up to you and are starting their journeys. So tell us more about some of the work that you do today.
Well, so right after the Olympics, I literally did the whole show life. I'm very lucky that I was in a sport that had like a life after the sport. So I toured the world. I got to see, so many wonderful places, work with so many amazing skaters. But when that came to an end, I started coaching skating, and I, was very involved with that. But then I started going through this bit of a change, and the change was just, I almost, want to say it was a spiritual type thing, but it was kind of like I wanted to get in touch with me. And I made some pretty deep decisions in my life, and where I wasn't feeling happy. I went through some hardships later on. I lost my mom, my dad, all within a couple of years, and I kind of spiraled down. And I've always said that one of the best things that ever happens to me is when I hit rock bottom. And a lot of people would say, what? Like, what do you mean? But when you hit rock bottom emotionally and spiritually and physically and everything, you have nowhere else to go but up, and you start to really get in tune with yourself. And I ended up deciding that I wanted to be a life coach. I wanted to help people. I wanted to work with people, not only through my experience of being rock bottom, and then 4 years later standing on that podium in Calgary, because I was in touch with myself and my passions and my values and everything, but this was an area I really wanted to kind of dive into. So I went back to school. I did a whole year and a half and got certified, and I'm life coaching now. And then as I've been life coaching, I'm kind of dipping into other things now. So now I'm certified Reiki. I'm, getting in touch with, different parts of me. And I can honestly say to you, I'm 55. I don't really want to announce that.
You look great.
Thank you. But I feel like I'm in the best place I've been in my life right now. I feel like I'm at peace, and I'm living a mindful life now. I'm taking care of myself, and really being grateful for everything around me. I think as a skater and being so busy and touring in cities and running around and everything, you really do kind of lose touch of yourself. And when I lost my mom, who was my best friend in life, to cancer, it was a turning point for me. It was something that, I never wish upon any daughter to see their mother struggle through this or go through that, but it really led me into this new way of living. And so, I'm excited. I'm inspired by it. And, I have goals coming up in a few years. I'd love to open my own retreat and have a mix of all kinds of great healing things. And so I'm in a good place right now. Lots of dreaming, which is exciting because, I was dreaming my whole life, right, about the Olympics and being this, skater on ice capades and things like that. And now my dream has really taken a different path, and I'm exhilarated by it.
Wow, that's amazing. And, as we head as a country into the long winter months, especially with the pandemic on top of that, I think it is really, really important. I think it's on top of a lot of Canadians' minds in terms of wellness and health, right? And mental health.
Absolutely. It really is. And, when I'm working with my clients, I have a few right now that are really struggling with COVID. It's been very, very difficult. And as much as, when it first hit, everybody was like, oh, we get to stay home. Everybody was kind of like, yeah, there's a horrific, pandemic going on, but people all of a sudden were kind of like open to having some time with their family and kind of be normal and gardening and things like that. But now we're like 8-9 months into this, and it's really, and I'm not going to lie, I struggle with it too. Like, I just want to be able to, go over and see my nieces and nephews and hug and kiss them and everything. But we're all trying to be very careful here. And so one of the things that I tell people about what's happening right now in the pandemic is to try to really look at it in a different way. Yes, it's horrible. We're losing loved ones. I lost an aunt and uncle to it. I mean, it's horrific what's going on. But if we look at things in a different perspective, what I've been trying to do with my clients is take this time to soul search, take this time to figure out, am I happy what I'm doing? Do I enjoy my job? Am I taking care of myself? Could my kids be doing something different? This is almost God's way of saying to us, like, take advantage of this time and figure yourself out. Because I think, as you just said, in society, we're so busy. We're always going, we're always rushing, we're always grabbing this and grabbing that. We always want more. We always, we're reaching for things, but we never just take a few minutes to just go and ask ourselves, how are we doing? And so this, pandemic has been that passage for people to really start thinking about themselves and their lives and working on themselves. And hopefully this will be, a memory for us all in a few months. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we can get through this. But, what we can learn during this time is so valuable for our lives. Need to just be able to be so in tune with yourself and love what you're doing. And if you do that, that's when success happens. And it took me going through this massive depression and a physical breakdown and everything to really figure out what was going on and to bring the love back to the sport. And once I brought why I was skating, and that was because I loved it, when I brought that back, that's when the Olympic medal happened for me. So it's really just, don't be afraid to reach out for help. Don't be afraid to talk to people about things. athletes are treated like they're invincible and they have to keep this tough, this tough appearance. No, you need to be able to let go of that sometimes, in even in a confidential way. And for me, like life coaching, every client I work with, it's confidential. It doesn't go past my office or me. And so that's my advice to them, is don't be afraid to reach out if something is not right.
That's a great advice for athletes. I think you're right, because they do this at so many years, right? And many of them at such a young age. It sometimes gets to a point, like you said, it might feel like work, or they lose their passion. But like you said, reach out, right?
And passion only leaves when you're not looking at it in the way that you want to be looking at it. And for athletes, let's say somebody loves to be a downhill skier, someone loves to be a speed skater or whatever, but they're still human. And that's what we got to remember. And the athlete themselves have to remember, you're still human. And this I'm a tough athlete and nothing bothers me, that you're actually trained to act like that and to be like that. It's suck it up, buttercup. That's what you hear from your coaches all the time. But you need to be able to have that process of connecting with somebody else, that you can let go of all these feelings. It was interesting because when I got the help from Dr. TikR, it was very interesting, because we literally found out that 85% of my breakdown and my depression really had nothing to do with skating. It was everything going on outside of the rink. It was, my parents being divorced, my brothers being away, my mom struggling for me to keep, not having normal friends at school because I was always in the rink. And it was just building up and building up, and I had no one to just, release it to.
Wow. And, tremendous respect for all our athletes, at any level, because it is a lot of, they put their heart and soul and a lot of work, determination. They talk about guts and glory, of course. And it does. Again, I have a, sweet spot for athletes. And this is also part of why I like to highlight Canadian athletes, because they work tremendously hard. So,
and it all comes down to minutes. Years.
Yes.
Work comes down to minutes, right? So that's a lot. That's a lot on an athlete.
Right. No, absolutely. And, talking about Support Local, Elizabeth, we wanted to ask you, will you accept the Support Local Canada Challenge?
Absolutely, I will.
Yay. That's awesome. So we would love to hear, Elizabeth, some of your favorite, local spots.
Okay, so one of my favorite spots is Fiorella's, which is here in Ottawa. And it sounds a little strange, but it's a hair salon, but it's a spa. And it was taken over by another local owner that used to do my hair since I was 5 years old, literally. And it's been taken over by his colleague. And she has transformed this place into such a healing place. It's just wonderful because of the spa, and it has all these magnificent services, and she's local, and I just love her. And so that's I had to bring that one up because it comes to my mind right away. And the second one is, this is the first time in my life I've moved up to West End, Ottawa. I've always been an East End girl, and there's the Carp Market, and it's my favorite. This is its last weekend, so I'm getting out there this weekend, because once the winter hits. But the Carp Market, if anybody locally here in Ottawa gets an opportunity to go there in the summer on the weekends, it's just all local produce and local handmade things and candles and soaps, and it's all local. And I just love going there and supporting it and bringing home some really yummy stuff. It's great.
Awesome. And I'm actually based in Ottawa, so I have some new spots to check out. So thank you.
Gotta go see Fiorella. She's amazing.
Fantastic. So there you go, Canada. Again, keep supporting local. And thank you, Elizabeth Manley. Again, you are just such an inspiration to our country. I would love to leave the last few words for you to address your amazing fans out there.
It's just a very difficult time right now for everyone. And I just want people to take a few minutes to themselves, be grateful for what you have right now, embrace this time with family and friends. I know that, they're in small little 1 and 2s and things like that, but keep your chin up. I'm confident that we're going to get through this. Just, please stick to the rules, because the more we wear I even have my fancy mask right here.
Ooh, I love it.
Wear your mask, wash your hands. Really, that is my number one message at this point, and to take some time for yourself. Really just soul search. Take the time during this pandemic to soul search and make sure you're doing what you love to do.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today, Elizabeth. And thank you, Canada. Keep supporting local and have a great day. We'll see you next week. Cheers.